Hello friends, welcome to week 2 of Drew's NFL predictions. Week 1 was a bit of a mixed bag, some very surprising results in there. I ended up with 9 correct winners out of 16. Not great, massive room for improvement there I would say. So yeah, let's just get into it. Thursday night's game. It's an AFC North flavoured flood of orange as the Bengals go to the Browns. Now, the Bengals lost to the Chargers. Joe Burrow's debut, bit of a mixed bag. More bad than good probably. He had a touchdown run, 22 yards I think it was. Yeah, good. But he really did very little else the rest of the game. The Browns got absolutely decimated by the Ravens. So they will be looking to bounce back pretty sharpish, I would think. And they should have enough to beat the Bengals here, I would think. So I'm going to go Browns by 9. Sunday's early games now. Let's start with the Giants against the Bears. Now the Bears pulled off a comeback out of absolutely nowhere. Mitch Trubisky, 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter. So they snuck away with a win. The Giants held the Steelers for a lot of the game. Lost it in the second half. Lost by 10, as predicted by me. What do you mean it's the only one I got right? Let's not think about that. But I don't see the Giants being massively troublesome for the Bears. And I would have the Bears by 5. Now, tale of 2 upsets next. The Eagles were roundly beaten by Washington last week, and they're up against the Rams, who managed to get the result against the Cowboys, which, 2 games that went completely against my predictions. The Rams used defense. They had a massively strong defensive showing, and that was enough to get them through. The Eagles were just garbage, actually. Just a poor showing all round by all accounts. So, as such, I've got the Rams here by 7. Cowboys and Falcons next. Both teams looking for their first win. The Falcons lost a pretty high scoring game against the Seahawks last time, and Dallas just want the offense to click, really. Falcons' defense kind of leaky. You'd think they'll get a bit of a bounce back. Falcons will, of course, be looking for another 450-yard game from Matty Ice. I think this game could actually go either way, but I'm taking the Cowboys by 6. Next up, the Bucs travelling up the coast for a meeting with the Panthers. No, the Panthers travelling down the coast. I apologise. I had that written the wrong way in the script. Panthers travelling down the east coast to Florida to take on the Buccaneers. Both teams again coming off losses in week 1. Tampa Bay will be looking for massive improvements from Tom Brady. He had a bit of an ignominious debut, shall we say. 2 interceptions, first time in 2 years. I think he's thrown multiple interceptions in a game. The Panthers showed flashes of brilliance, but they didn't get the win against the Raiders. And I think they're going to cause an upset here. I think Tom Brady's going 0-2. And I have got the Panthers by 2 points. Now, 49ers at the Jets. I think even the most partisan of Jets fans will be going into this game fearing the worst. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone in particular, but there is a Jets fan who does the music for the channel, and he's been pretty partisan so far this season. I don't think he's going to be there this game. Both teams lost week 1. The Niners unable to get the job done on a potential game-winning drive. The Jets were just completely blown out in the first half. They got some semblance of respectability back in the second half, but yeah, I reckon San Fran will storm out of the blocks here, and they're not going to let it up. 49ers by 22. Someone won't be happy with that, but, you know, we'll get over it. The Steelers now, welcoming the Broncos to Heinz Field for, I suspect, what will be a close affair. The Broncos very nearly eked out a win against the Titans. I had a tie predicted for that one. It ended up being a 2-point loss for the Broncos. So, you know, pretty close, pretty close. They absolutely lost the possession game to Tennessee, but, you know, Broncos may have gotten a bit lucky. Gostkowski seemingly forgot how to kick the ball. He missed 4 kicks before he finally put one over for the game winner in the last minute. I think the Broncos will lose possession battle in this one as well, but I see Pittsburgh having far more fortune, shall we say, in terms of the kicking game than Tennessee did, and I have Steelers by 4. Now, we just mentioned the Titans. They're up next against the Jaguars. Jacksonville probably had the upset of the week, maybe, between them and Washington. But they took out the Colts thanks to 19 of 20 from Minshew Mania. However, I really see Tennessee having far too much defensively for the Jags. Minshew Mania is not going to have 95% of his passes successful this time out. And Derrick Henry is going to rack up another 30 touches, probably a couple of touchdowns. And they'll just grind the Jags down. Titans by 11. Probably the most confident one I've got for the week. We'll see how that goes. The Colts were probably the most confident one I had last week. Now the Packers hosting the Lions, coming off of a very high scoring affair against the Vikings last time out. That game was only made respectable by Minnesota torching it in the fourth quarter. They were 43-9 down at one point or something like that. It was pretty mad. Aaron Rodgers is in form. He's in decent nick this year by the looks of it, and that's going to continue against a pretty substandard Lions secondary. Packers by 13. I'm not looking forward to this one. Dolphins going up against the Bills in what will almost certainly prove to be a very tough matchup for us. Fitzpatrick was far from great against the Patriots last time out. We might have issues health-wise with Devontae Parker. He sat out most of the second half in week 1. And the Buffalo D is daunting for the best of teams at the best of times. So I think it's going to be too much for us, unfortunately. I've got this pegged as probably the lowest scoring game of the week. I've got Bills by 8. Notice how I kept it short this time. Last up, in terms of the early matches for Sunday, the Colts and the Vikings. Both teams will want to bounce back from pretty disappointing showings in week 1. My leaning, and I might be wrong on this one, this probably would be considered a bit of an upset, but my leaning is towards the Colts being angrier, losing to Jacksonville, and I think they'll get enough points on the board early, and I think they'll squeeze out the victory. I've got Colts by 4. Next up, Sunday evening, the Cardinals taking on Washington. Who predicted this game, when they saw it as week 2, who predicted both teams going into this game with a 1-0 record, and at least one of them coming out of the other side undefeated? I don't see a lot of hands. I do not see many hands at all. This will be a pretty defensive battle, you would think. But Kyler Murray seems to have a bit of a chemistry going with DeAndre Hopkins. They had 14 connections for, I think it was 151 yards. And I think this will continue into the season. And I think it'll be enough to give Arizona the win here. Cardinals by 7. Then, Ravens and Texans. Might be game of the week. The Texans, rough start to the season for them. They drew the Chiefs in week 1. Lost to them pretty convincingly in the end. And now they're up against the Ravens. So it's probably two of the top 5 most talented teams in the league, if not 2 of the top 3, or possibly the top 2 for your weeks 1 and 2. It's not a good schedule, and because of that, it's really tough to tell how much of a detrimental effect them losing Hopkins will actually be to their playoff hopes, because you'd expect them to come out of it 0-2, but their schedule levels out a little bit from there, so there's still a chance they'll make the playoffs, even if they do go 0-2, which I predict they will. I have the Ravens, who didn't need to do much last week against the Browns, to be honest. They didn't need to do anything. They didn't do much. They only moved the ball about 420 yards the entire game, but it was enough for 5 touchdowns. So I have the Ravens by 11. Speaking of the Chiefs, they're up against the Chargers. Now, one of these teams was convincing in week 1. One of these teams was not convincing in week 1. I will leave it entirely up to you to decide which is which in that scenario. But what I will say is I do not expect Mahomes and co. to be having much trouble moving the football in this game. Chiefs by 19. Next up, closing out Sunday's games, we have presumably a better indicator of what Cam Newton can do with the Patriots. We have the Patriots travelling to Seattle to face the Seahawks. Yeah, like I say, I think it'll be a better indicator of what Cam Newton's capable of moving forward. He looked reasonable last time, but the Dolphins, we're not doing much to start this season. We're still gelling. We've got so many new signings. And Cam did not get a lot done through the air. You'd think they would need more through the air against the Seahawks. I don't see the Patriots being too much trouble for Seattle here. And I have Seahawks by 11. Now, last but not least, Monday's game, Saints against the Raiders. Both teams struggling health-wise on the receiver front. Henry Ruggs seemed to get hurt last week, and Michael Thomas may be dealing with a high ankle sprain. So, both stand to play, but both are worth keeping an eye on, because I think losing either one of them will actually be a pretty big blow for either side. As it stands, well, this is the first game to be played at Allegiant Stadium, which looks absolutely incredible. But I don't think it's going to be a happy debut for the Raiders there. I can't see them winning. I've got the Saints by 13. So that is going to do it for this week. Hopefully, this week will end up being slightly easier to predict than last, but we shall see. I hope you will come back next week for more of the same. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.